Hello, my cosmic beings. This is Virgo Queen, your transformation coach using the tools of astrology, tarot, sound healing, and ritual. As you know, I have had my own YouTube channel for the past 3 years doing weekly cosmic tarot readings for the collective, talking about astrology, talking about soul and magic. And today I wanted to get real with you. I want to get personal and intimate and to talk to you about my own journey into this world. The world of astrology, tarot, sound healing, and ritual. All the transformation tools that I use for myself and now for my clients. So I started on this journey actually when I was a child. My mother introduced to me, we used to pull Mother Peace tarot cards on her big, beautiful velvet bed in Alaska, the cold country of the world. And from there, like as a child, I was very aware of the spirit world. My first friend was a tree, or shall I say, a forest. And there were many spiritual parts of myself very young. I like to say I was born awake. I think a lot of us are born awake, but then through the living and the growing up, do we kind of defragment and try to fit into the world? And then around the time of Saturn return, do we finally come back home to ourselves? So, this is a lot a part of my work of how to live a new myth. For we are all experiencing a story. And as you know, you find your true uniqueness by sharing your story. So, here I am today sharing my personal story to my Saturn return. Now, I just want to say that why I'm sharing this story is for others that are going through Saturn returns to experience it through my journey, but also to have their own personal story. Again, I want to emphasize I have a Saturn in Scorpio. Scorpio is really about life, death, transformation. So mine was really about really deconstruction, destroying the old world and stepping into a new world. So I want to say that my journey started. I was living in Los Angeles, California. My dream when I was around 8 years old is that I decided that I wanted to be an actress and I wanted to move to Hollywood and be in films. Obviously, this dream grew within me, and I took all the acting classes and singing and all these amazing things. Then we moved to Hawaii, and that was radically changing my life. And then eventually went to LA and lived my whole life there, or my whole, 20s in Los Angeles. And by the time I came around 25, 26, I had met a man in my life, and I was determined that this was my true love, and we were going to do all these amazing things together. And I found out that he was manic depressive, and when we were together, he had many episodes of suicidal attempts. Well, this rocked my world. And we stayed together for, I think, about 2 years. We moved back to LA. And towards the end, it was just in the right alignment for him to go back home and to nourish himself. But for 2 years, I was in this constant state of stress and tension. And I had finally gotten, my dream job. I was like an assistant to a director, and like I was working like 80-hour work weeks. And I was like, why am I not making enough money? Why do I not feel happy? And then all of a sudden, this relationship ended. And my whole world fell apart. My physical body could no longer sustain a lifestyle that I was living, which was working hard, pushing, pushing, pushing. And I eventually went and saw a doctor, and through many different tests, many different doctors, I was determined that I had Hashimoto's, a autoimmune disorder that was destroying my thyroid. The thyroid is what, well, regulates our hormones, regulates our moods, all these things really important, not only for the feminine body, for all bodies. So the decision at one point was to remove the thyroid, and this was going to mean a whole different lifestyle. This was a really difficult process. Not only do I have a Saturn in Scorpio, I have a moon in Scorpio, I have a Pluto in Scorpio. I'm very Scorpion, even though I have a lot of this Virgo and earthy and fire tones. This was a really significant moment in my life where I had to go deep, deep, deep down into my soul wounds. And what I experienced a lot was that the spirit world was trying to communicate with me. But first, I had to make room. And what that meant is that I had to remove a lot of toxins, not only from my physical body, but from my psyche, from my spiritual body. And what this meant is that I had a lot of fear that came, a lot of fear of being alone. And when you're alone, then that is when the negative energy or negative entities come in and they prey off of the fear. And so I had a lot of episodes of really feeling as if there was something bigger than me trying to control my actions. I often would be uh, sitting doing the dishes and seeing these knives and thinking, "Wow, oh my God, I have to open my veins in order to under." Like it was this really awful experience because in my conscious mind, I was awake that I was like, no, I'm not going to pick up a knife. I'm not going to do what other people have done around me. I have to face this fear. And what I started doing is shamanism, which was looking at what the spirit world is trying to communicate with me, my dream world. I also had to do a lot of past life regression therapy and noticing, okay, so these are past lives coming in and communicating through me through fear. And I also had to deal with a lot of old programming where I was having these visions of these creatures devouring me, and goblins trying, like, saying all these awful things to me. And I just have to say that I'm incredibly grateful that I had my mother there with me. Not a lot of people get to have that. And she had gone through a similar experience before in her life. And she was able, she's a hypnotherapist. She's just the divine mother. And she's an incredible woman that has so many of these skills that I also have inherited. And together we were able to create a sacred space for me to really just like spew out all these demons, spew out all these negative life forms and entities, these belief patterns, and all these things in order for me to finally come back into myself. And I just really want to encourage people that are going through a lot of really confusing, really painful time during their Saturn return, that I wanted you to know that you are not alone. That this is a really important part of the journey. It never makes sense when you're going through it. Um, I had a lot of fear about, like, wow, okay, so I'm schizophrenic now, and I'm gonna go live on the streets, and I'm gonna die, and I'm like, just incredible fear. And the more I worked with that fear, the more that I understood, okay, wow, I'm in a Saturn return. I'm going through a transformation. I'm moving into the unknown. I'm having to face all these things. It gave me a space. It gave me this sanctuary. Okay, so I'm going to go to work. I often would go to work early in the morning, and by lunchtime, I could feel like this. I would often call it the fire in the head. And the fire in the head, especially with autoimmune, it's just like you can't think straight. You feel like you're being invaded. You feel like all these awful thoughts. You can't, like, you really have kind of not control of your body. And at this time, I was completely sober. I, ate. I had to completely change my lifestyle, meaning I had to go on an anti-inflammatory diet, which I am pretty much still on today, which means no grains, no gluten, no dairy, just like basically rejecting life in order to live life. And so I not only have done all this incredible research about the autoimmune, um, and how to heal the physical body through medicine, but also shamanism, and also, like I said, astrology, tarot, sound healing, and ritual. Astrology, understanding my life purpose, understanding my natal chart, and then looking at the transit chart and seeing, wow, this is what's happening in my Saturn return. This is how it's affecting me. And then looking towards with the tarot, I did daily tarot readings. I'm like, okay, what's the energy going to be like today? And like, okay, this is how I can transform it. Doing my weekly readings. And then also, I couldn't physically move. I couldn't physically like go out for a walk, or I would exhaust myself. So what I could do was drive to work and drive back, but then I would go to sound healing events. And this was in a room full of gongs and all these incredible sound equipment. And it cleared my cells, it cleared the toxins, it cleared all these things that I couldn't do physically. And then I started weaving in with working with the new moon and full moons with ritual. And this was just me and two other women. One was a witch. She was a teacher of mine, a breathwork teacher. So I was also doing breath work. And another friend of mine who was like a yoga therapist. And together we kind of, the three, the mother, maid, and crone, all came together. And that's when I started practicing ritual. And because of that, a huge transformation happened in my life. And this was when we specifically did this really potent ritual. And 2, 3 days later, like all of a sudden my life changed, and I had to move to Europe, and I had to, like, all just this movement happened. And this is what I really love doing with my clients now, is really looking at where do we need movement, looking at the subconscious and conscious minds. And why I'm telling you this incredibly horrific Saturn return story is that I needed to go through that, to have compassion, to hold the space, to evaluate how the soul evolves in each and every one of us. And how, when we choose to have awareness about this, is when we really truly call in our magic. And I want to say it's worth it. I want to say that I'm grateful for all the horrific um, things that I've gone through, and I'm grateful for all the people that were in my life. And I constantly talk to clients and other people that are going through Saturn returns, and the fact that they have no one like they had, like I had my mother. Like, I wish that for everyone in the world, to have a mother like mine. And so I think this is part of the gift that I want to give with my work, is that I don't want you to feel alone, because it is terrifying and no one needs to experience that. And I shed these tears in gratitude and just in my most intimacy and my most radical honesty of sharing with you all that, this is a precious time of soul growth. And I don't want you to be alone because I wasn't. And I am the person I am today because of all the people that helped me and supported me on this journey. So, today is a full moon in Sagittarius, a time to just completely be grateful for who we are and to give love and to give gratitude. And this is why I'm doing the Saturn return um, confession to you all, is that if you're going through your Saturn return, if you're just out of it, if you're preparing for it, if you're in your second Saturn return, which happens 63, 65, I'm here to help you. I can look at your astrology chart. We can call in the tarot. We can work with sound healing and ritual. And all of these things will help transform to move out the old and to call back your magic. And when you are in alignment to your magic and to your cosmic self, this is when true change can happen. So I want to thank everyone for joining me right now and for being part of this journey. And I welcome you to contact me, ask me any question that you have, and I am here to guide you. Blessed, blessed, blessed be.